special meeting of the Villa Park Village Board to order. Clerk Kornicki, could you please call the roll? Glenn, could you fix the mics? Thank you.
Trustee Salella.
Here.
Trustee Kazone.
Here.
Trustee Murphy. Here. Trustee Patrick. Trustee Tucker.
Here.
Trustee Wagner.
Here.
President Bolfus.
Here. Let's all stand for the pledge, and then Trustee Wagner will have a prayer after that. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a short prayer.
Dear Lord, watch over us during this trying time for our nation and the world. Watch over those who are sick and those who have diminished immune systems. Grant us the ability to practice charity, understanding, and patience during this time. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, this is a special board meeting. The normal board meeting that we were going to have was canceled. This is a special board meeting just for one item, which we'll get to shortly. Before that, I'd just like to make a few comments, if I may. I guess I may because I'm the president, right? Well, 2 weeks ago, who would have thought that we would be dealing with a pandemic? Who would have imagined that we'd be under a shelter-in-place order and that non-essential businesses would be ordered to close by the governor? If we had been asked if we thought that that would ever happen, we would have said no, never in our country or our village. But here we are today. I would like to thank our residents and businesses for how they have all are handling this disruption in your lives and in your livelihood. I went out on Saturday night to pick up some carry-out food and also stopped by a few restaurants who were open for pickups and deliveries. These restaurants are restaurants that we all visit, and they are our friends and our neighbors. And they are trying to keep their employees and to paid and to keep them busy and to cover as much as their overhead as possible. So please help them out if you are able. I would also like to give a big thank you to our first responders in our police and fire departments. As we are staying inside, they are out on the streets, possibly exposing themselves to COVID-19. I would like to thank them for their work and all the efforts they put in for our residents in Villa Park. Thanks to everyone for the understanding and the cooperation during these challenging times. I wish I could tell you when this will be over, but no one is able to answer that question. We will get through this, and we will look back and say we are stronger and closer today as a community. I'm sure you have all been listening to the radios and watching the constant updates that we see every day about COVID-19. So I will not cover the constantly changing statistics and the recommendations on what we can do to prevent a contraction of this virus. I would like to let you know how we got to this place tonight. What are some of the things that have happened that we are here? Well, the village has been in continuous contact and monitoring the emergency of the COVID disease. Events are changing daily, not hourly, regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The village manager, police, and fire chiefs and myself have been in contact with our counterparts in neighboring communities. I have been participating in daily conference calls with Governor Pritzker's office and the governor and with the Illinois Department of Health for updates on the COVID-19 in our state. I have also had weekly conferences with the DuPage Health Department and the Office of Emergency Management, and bi-weekly calls with other mayors and presidents in DuPage County. Manager Keener has also been in regular contact with other managers in DuPage County. We have also been receiving regular updates from the state and the county health departments through the Illinois Municipal League and the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. As you know, COVID-19 is a major concern to our country, to our state, and to Villa Park. COVID-19 has demonstrated that it can infect anyone. Although the senior population seems to be at the greatest risk, especially if they have underlying health issues. But recent tests have shown that anyone can contract COVID-19. In fact, yesterday we had the first infant that was infected. Well, after talking with the health department, our neighboring villages, and after the governor's executive order closing all bars and restaurants and large gatherings, I declared a state of emergency last month, March 16, 2020, in Villa Park in an effort to slow the stop and spread of COVID-19 in our village and to protect the residents. With that order, I directed Manager Keener to close all village-owned buildings to the public, and all village board and commission meetings will be canceled until the end of April. Hopefully, we won't have to wait that long, and we'll be able to engage on our regular meeting schedule sooner. If you need to contact any business with, or if you need to conduct any business with the village, please check our website at invillapark.com. You can do a lot through that website, or call 630-834-8500. That's our main phone number. My emergency order that I put in effect is only effective for 7 days per state law. To extend the emergency order requires a vote by the village board, and that's why we're here tonight. The reason we are here tonight is to establish a temporary executive power so that the village may be able to respond quickly and to the rapidly changing efforts of COVID-19. With the effects of COVID-19 changing daily, if not hourly, the village needs to react quickly when necessary. This could involve the emergency purchases of goods and services, emergency staffing, and to work with other governmental agencies. It would also allow us the ability for any grants that may become available with a declared emergency or disaster. This ordinance tonight will only be in effect until the next village board meeting, at which time it would need to be reinstated if necessary. We are trying to keep you informed through our social media sites, but that is a challenge with how quickly things are changing. You can also find information from the DuPage County Health Department website, and that website is dupagehealth.org/COVID-19 for additional information. This is a very trying time for our community and our village, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or what tomorrow will be like. But I am sure that we'll get through this together. Of that, I am sure, because we're Villa Park, and that's what we do. So thank you, and hopefully this will be over quickly. So, well, we have to make preparations just in case it's not. So with that, we'll move on to to our agenda. And the first thing on the agenda is public comments on agenda items. Does anyone from the public have any comments? Okay, do we have any comments that people called in or sent emails ahead of time, Manager?
Yes, Your Honor, I have one.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Your Honor and Board, I do have the one that was emailed today. It says, given that Governor Pritzker has been among the more aggressive of governors with regard to locking down Illinois earlier than many other states, and given that the entire state is currently under a shelter-in-place order with all non-essential businesses already ordered to close and all non-essential activities, including most religious services, already canceled statewide, and that parks and other public places and services in Villa Park are already closed, And given that Villa Park has no hospital or other obvious critical services that must be secured by village mandate that are not already covered by the governor's order, and given that the Villa Park Police Department has already prioritized emergency calls and services to meet the current situation, and that SWAT and other emergency preparedness law enforcement operations are largely managed and coordinated through the DuPage County Office of Emergency Management. Given those things, what exactly and specifically does the board expect to do that requires, to quote the proposed ordinance, the village president to exercise extraordinary power and authority by executive order? Further, if such extraordinary power and authority is granted to the village president, on what date or on which precise and specific trigger will this extraordinary power expire? Finally, what guarantees do we have that this extraordinary power cannot and will not be used for long-term or lasting decision-making or political gain, which is not immediately and directly relevant to the current public health crisis and only to the current crisis?
Do you have the name of who submitted that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Patrick Stefanowski.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll take them one at a time, okay? The first one was exactly and specifically does the board expect to do that requires, to quote the proposed ordinance, the village president to exercise extraordinary power and authority by executive order? Well, a number of things are in our ordinance, which we cover, listed. I tried to limit this. If I go by state statute, there are some wide-ranging things that this would be covered, but I didn't see any necessity for those, so we listed down here. Emergency purchasing is one item. We don't know what's going to come in the future. We don't know what problems are ahead for us. It's a changing environment all the time, every day. We may need some piece of equipment that is not in our budget and is maybe beyond the manager's purchasing authority. We've had a couple of things already. I think we're ordering some, what is that light that we, ultraviolet light to disinfect the ambulance and the police cars and possibly the village hall. So we have ordered one of those. And we may have to order some masks ourselves, and that possibly could run over the manager's purchasing authority because they're not all that cheap. And we're always running low on those masks, and we don't want to have our first responders or anybody go out there without the proper protection. The other item we're putting on this ordinance is emergency staffing. We don't know how we're going to have to move people around. We may have to bring other people in, or what exactly has to be. Maybe we have to bring somebody on that can be available to sanitize the building all the time. So, we need the ability to do that, to address staffing issues. And also the ability to work also with neighboring communities and agencies a little more freely and to share and coordinate things with them. So those would be three of them that we stayed in here. Some of the other ones that we doing this for is in case there's some federal funds and grants that become available when a emergency or disaster is declared in the village. And we are already keeping track of what this is costing us, expenses that are directly involved with this emergency. And we want to, if we don't want to miss any opportunities to get those funds if the grants come available. Did you have anything you want to add on that one, Mayor Keener?
Your Honor, you did quite well.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, if such an extraordinary power and authority is granted to the village president, this is his second question, on what date and on which process and specifically triggers what is an extraordinary power expires? Well, that's in our ordinance too, and by state law, the power that I originally, my original declaration was only good for 7 days. we're here tonight the question is, do we want to extend it? If we don't extend it, it's over. If we do extend it, it's only good until the next board meeting. At that time, the board will have to decide if they want to extend it again or let it expire. So that's all written in the state statute. And his last question is, what guarantees do we have that this extraordinary power cannot and will not be used for long-term or lasting decision-making or political gain, which is not immediately and directly relevant to the current public health crisis? Well, that's sort of, I interpret that he's asking us, what's the checks and balances? You know, what are the controls that are on the president if we get given this authority? By the way, the state statute is the one that gives this authority to me as the president of the village. Well, what the checks and balances on that is up to the village board. If they feel that it's being abused, any 3 village board members can ask for a special board meeting, and at which time we would have a meeting and we could null and void the executive order, emergency order. So the village board has the responsibility to look over and to keep an eye on what I do, and if they have any problems, they can request a special board meeting, and in 48 hours we'd have a board meeting and you'd take care of that situation. So, and that's all I have. Did anything else you, Manager Keener or Attorney Orr, have they want to add?
No, I think you've covered bases quite well.
Okay. All right. With that, is there anyone else from the public who'd like to make any comments? Anyone else calling in, Manager Keener? Any other text messages? The phone number, I think, or the text was publicized? No?
Yes.
So, and the email address to send them to was also publicized. So, okay. No other comments. We'll move on to item 4, which is the ordinance. This is the ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, establishing temporary executive power pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 3, Section 8-301 to 308 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, 65 ILCS 5/11/1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and 20 ILCS 305 to 11 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act. Manager Keener, want to read that next section?
It is the policy of the Village of Villa Park that the village be prepared to address any emergencies. Therefore, in response to the new and significant outbreak of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19 in the United States, pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 3, Sections 8-301 to 8-308 of the Village of Villa Park Municipal Code, 65 ILCS 511-1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and 20 ILCS 3305-11 of the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, it is necessary and appropriate to authorize the village president to exercise extraordinary power and authority by executive order during the state of disaster emergency to ensure that the effects of COVID-19 are mitigated and minimized, and that residents and visitors in the village remain safe and secure. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I believe Trustee Patrick is participating over the phone. Okay, so we do the roll call for the ordinance. So I'd like to have a motion for the ordinance. Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Trustee Tucker?
I brought in several questions because I was concerned about our dollar amount limit and the reason why we had to do this. You graciously answered that question because there may be some emergencies, but is there a level, a top level of how high we can actually go on spending?
Attorney Orr, please.
Spending has be in accordance with our budget. If it would require a budget amendment,
I think it's on.
the reality is there are, as the village president stated, powers that could have been given to him that he chose not to take. One of the powers under the Emergency Act would have allowed the village president to go beyond our village budget. He chose not to invoke that power. So in answer to your question, he is limited to the budget. You have not given him the authority to go over the budget. So whatever he spends would mean, if in an emergency, something else would have to be eliminated from the budget.
My second question I asked was, I was concerned about our first responders and our public works to make sure that they were taken into consideration, that they were safely being taken care of when they were being called in for emergency purposes. And I was instructed that we have steps in place to protect them through their departments. They have already made several steps, and through the state, to protect them as individuals too. So we're not requesting them to endanger themselves and their jobs to go in our village and take care of what necessary things have to be done. And that was my concern, to make sure that they were also being taken into consideration for their safety issues.
Let me add on to that. Today, there are some testing locations that have been set up. One in North Lake and one in Burr Ridge has one in Bolingbrook, that any first responder who has concerns about having been infected can go to and be tested. Those are set up with through Advocates Hospital, I believe. So that's just new. So.
And to answer, his name is Steve, his question that, in case he hasn't read, our next board meeting would be April 13th. So you're only talking 3 weeks that we're giving you authority to make decisions on this. And in 3 weeks, that's not really a lot of time for how quickly this virus has been moving. So I just wanted to make sure he knew on book and all the time. We're only talking 3 weeks that we have actually, with this vote tonight, would be giving you authority to do that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else up here? Trustee Patrick, did you have any questions or comments?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. And seeing nothing, no other questions or comments, so we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
President Bolthus?
Yes, with that passes. And we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comments on non-agenda items. Does anyone from the public have any comments on a non-agenda item? Nobody calling in there? Nobody else? Okay. All right. Well, our next, like Trustee Tucker mentioned, our next board meeting is scheduled for April 13th. Hopefully, we'll be able to have that meeting. So, and these things will get more down to normal. So, okay. With that, a motion to adjourn. Trustee Kazone.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee seconds. Trustee
second the
Wagner,
motion.
second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. With that, we're adjourned. See you on the 13th.